from my work in progress. It's these two characters. They're driving up to a concert in Washington. So they're in central Oregon right now, right at the base of Mount Hood. It's these two friends, Jake and Soren, and it's told from Jake's point of view. So here we go. Snap the picture, Jake. Snap the picture. The only thought remaining from the dream world when I woke the next morning, lying on my stomach, mouth open and drooling, and hair sticking to a pile of empty beer cans. My head throbbed. The likely consequences of using a pile of empty beer cans as a pillow, or from cashing the 30-pack last night with Soren. The details were fuzzy, more so than usual, fuzzy like whatever my left hand was lying in. Laughter from outside the tent, Soren's, I wondered why. Snap the picture, Jake. No, time to wake up. Outside the tent, Soren continued laughing, more of a short, nasally giggle this time. What was so amusing? His rolled-up sleeping bag was over in the corner by my feet. I hoped he'd simply evolved into a morning person and forced myself to stop thinking about the effects of sleep deprivation. I stretched my toes and discovered I'd left my shoes on all night. I sat up to take them off, but a high-pitched ringing, a tuning fork reverberating inside my sinuses, forced me to corral my head with my hands. Maybe my ears needed popping. Attributing the symptoms to a hangover, I reached into the left front pocket of the jeans I'd slept in and pulled out my flattened cigarette pack. Except for a few flecks of tobacco that fell out when I turned it upside down, it was empty. The realization cued an ache in my lungs. I coughed and rubbed my bald, bony chest underneath my shirt. I hacked up a wad of phlegm from my throat but held it on my tongue until I figured out what to do with it. Grabbing one of the beer cans under my sleeping bag. A brown loogie slid off my tongue, slipped through the wide mouth opening and plopped into the pool of flat, stale beer left at the bottom. The ass, my college buddies had called it. I knew better than to leave the ass. Outside, Soren started laughing again. The high-pitched squeal meant he wasn't faking it. I heard a crunch, then the tent flap unzipped and Soren popped his head in, gritting beneath white sunglasses. It sounded like a nice one, he said. Sweet, you found a beer. Been looking all over for a straggler out here, except the place is pristine. You want it? I asked, tilting the can at him. No, that's all you, player. Soren's head disappeared back into the sunlight. He'd left the tent flap partially open, forcing me to shield my eyes. Not a cloud in the sky, Jake. You should come out here and see this. I felt a burp rising from my belly and into my throat. I tasted charcoal, charred cigarette filters, like I'd smoked a whole pack backwards the night before. I knew if I got up I was going to spew. I wanted a pillow. The plush, comfortable, laundry detergent, fresh-smelling pillow that Soren had convinced me would just take up space in the car, so I left it back in Davis. I laid back down. The tuning fork inside my head came on stronger this time. Soren said something. I raised my voice to reach him. How are you not hungover? I feel like death. I was hurting a bit earlier, he said. So when did you start waking up so fucking early? Maybe a year ago. I realized mornings were the most peaceful part of the day. Great for meditation and exercise. You're at your peak when you wake up, you know. So you slept last night? A little, yeah. You were talking in your sleep again. I thought you kept saying, smack my bitch up, smack my bitch up. You know, like that Prodigy song? Soren practically choked on that one. I couldn't stop laughing. Then I realized you were saying, snap the picture, snap the picture. Snap the picture, Jake. I started to weigh the decisions I'd made in the dream world like I'd actually physically been there. Regretted the actions I never took, but so vividly remembered taking. The green button. I was about to apologize for waking Soren up when he interrupted. What you were saying made sense, though, when I stepped outside, he said. What made sense? Dude. The surfer pronoun stalled in the air between us, hovered on the crest of a sound wave, as a suggestion I couldn't ignore. In the past, such a comment meant I was doing something wrong, and Soren had spotted the authorities catching on to me. But this morning it had more force, more grit, more experience behind it that pulled me out of my sleeping bag and outside the tent so fast you couldn't even hear the swish of nylon sliding over nylon, not even the zipper ripping open. There was bright white light at first, too much. The white turned to oranges, greens, purples, splotching the backs of my eyelids. A dull pain at the top of my eyeballs as I forced the lids to slits. There was nothing to block out the colors, no barrier behind these first and only lines of defense. So thin, so delicate, so much for evolution. The grain crunched beneath my shoe when I took a step. The smell of wet dirt made me swallow. Can you believe it? Soren said. a gray blur standing now with his tan arms hanging at his sides. I managed one eye half open. "When I see it," I said. "Try my shades, Squints." Soren pressed his sunglasses to my chest. I put them on. I opened my eyes and tilted my head back. He was right. A cloudless blue dome of sky overwhelmed my vision. I held out my right hand to block out the sun in the east and couldn't spot a cloud no matter how hard I squinted. But the tuning fork still hadn't ceased. Outside the tent, the ringing felt external, more mechanical, even electrical. An audible static surrounding Soren and me, like the crackle from crickets hopping onto your skin and crawling inside your ears. Sweat beaded on my forehead, and Soren's sunglasses slid awkwardly down my nose. "I wasn't talking about the sky," Soren said. "Look down." His voice became distant, muffled, background noise to the electricity, rising like helium in the big blue dome. "Soren, do you hear that noise?" "What noise?" I looked down like Soren had instructed earlier. I saw my hiking shoes and then the beige stalks of grain squashed beneath them. Tiny specks of dirt clung to a few strands on the surface of their flattened friends, flattened all around us in the tent, maybe 30 feet in every direction. Beyond 30 feet, the field rose up like a wall, better yet, an outfield fence, completely encircling us in the tent. "How'd we do that?" I said. "You think this was us?" Soren stopped laughing and stared at me. I wasn't sure I knew what he meant. The small hairs on my arms and neck stood up as we looked at each other. Soren's arms were crossed, convinced. I started to feel lightheaded going through the possibilities. I concluded it was too soon for sunstroke, so maybe this was the altitude. My heart rate skyrocketed. My pulse pounded a few times inside my neck. Then I felt a muffled half-beat. Then it just stopped. I inhaled sharply and held it in, trying to jump-start a beat. It worked. A heartbeat, a painful reminder I was still alive. A reminder of that night in college a few weeks before graduation, lying on the couch wide awake, 5 a.m. gray sky outside, having never gone to sleep, just lying on my couch with numb gums, wondering if I should just finish the last of it or snap a bowl and try to stop twitching, to fall fucking asleep but I wouldn't sleep for hours, even if I wanted to, which I desperately did, clammy hands and stretched pinky finger over and over and over and then my heart just stopped. I sat up and held my chest, smacked myself in the chest with an open palm, inhaled, and inhaled, and inhaled, and inhaled, until finally a faint murmur reverberated in my chest. Snap the picture, Jake. White light too bright, far too bright to comprehend the objects before me. They were human faces, Rubik's cubes with wormholes. The commander had held the green button in front of me. I had reached out to push it. I was actually going to push it. I was going to kill those people. I spoke up. "I did something in the dream that I shouldn't have. It was the light, bleach bypass, surface-to-air missiles. I pushed the button, Soren. I killed innocent people, tourists." Soren moved toward me with his arms raised slightly off his legs, cautious, palms face down, like I was still about to push the fucking button. Why would I have even reached for it? "Jake, forget that shit. It was just some dumb dream, remember?" I did remember. That was the problem. I remembered too much of it. It was there inside. It would stay there, like Soren's. Back to high school freshman year, when Soren had told me he didn't mind the dreams nor the sleepwalking, didn't see what was the big deal when he'd find me passed out in his mom's backyard some mornings, covered in sycamore leaves, my face inches away from a sprinkler head. He'd wake me just as the sprinkler started spouting well water at my face, reflecting the closest stream away from me with the sole of his shoe. From then on, we were wingmen. "You ever seen crop circles?" he said. Soren was mocking me now. He thought humor would help. "Funny," I said. "Just look at the barley, man," Soren said. "How else would it get bent like that? Watch." He stomped on the patch beneath him. See how the strands break when I do that?" He got down on a knee. "See how none of the other strands are broken except for the ones around the tent?" It was as if Soren knew my thought patterns, their deductive processes, mapped out the logical progressions I'd make, the conclusion I'd reach, and exploited it without having to preach it to me. It felt like an independent thought, the genuine article. The only way anyone ever learns anything, by coming to their own conclusions. But it was Soren's conclusion, disguised as my own. He made an excellent teacher. "My point is obvious if you just stop disbelieving everything," he said. "How the fuck else am I supposed to take a bunch of fucking flattened grass?" "Barley," he interrupted. "Ignore it?" I finished.